Welcome back to the discussion Improve Security with Facial Recognition Biometrics, sponsored by NEC Corporation of America on Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. My guest today is Benji Hutchinson, Vice President for Federal Operations, NEC Corporation of America. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy. Well, Benji, I got to ask you kind of a sensitive question here about privacy.
Sure.
And certainly not a new concept for NEC. They've anticipated this for several years. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they have a digital trust business strategy division. Well, tell me more about that.
We do, and it is a sensitive topic, and you see it in the news a lot. Privacy is a concern. It's a great concern for us. We want to make sure that the customers to whom we sell, and when we deploy the technology, that they're using it in an ethical manner. They're also using it in accordance with U.S. federal law around privacy. But we have seen this coming, and we are very active in various privacy discussions. The biggest one that you mentioned is the Digital Trust Division. So globally, what we do is we have experts, both inside and outside of the company, who focus on these types of topics, whether it's ethics or privacy or artificial intelligence technology. They are academics, they're professional people, engineers, and what they do is they help us to craft the right policies so that our technology is developed in accordance with privacy and ethical concerns, whether that's privacy by design when we develop the algorithms of the technology, or decreasing any sort of bias that might be in the algorithms. Those are the types of topics that this organization works on.
You know, I think you earlier said that the hard part's not the hardware.
Right.
The hardware is kind of the easy part. The harder part's the algorithm, but really at the top of the pyramid here is the ethical discussion that we have to have here, because many of the listeners of this program and Federal News Radio, they are concerned about the ethical application of technology, which is kind of like, you know, it's like the redheaded cousin that got to bring it late, but you incorporated it early in the discussion.
That's right. We thought that it was a big part of our corporate responsibility. It's a big part of who we are. And we wanted to make sure that we got ahead of that discussion. And we've gone further than that. It's not only the Digital Trust Division, but we also are active in a lot of dialogues with privacy groups outside here in the Washington, D.C. area. We also engage with lawmakers on Capitol Hill as they craft language for legislation to make sure that the highest standards are in place for this technology so that there aren't any biases or there aren't any big privacy concerns. And we always try to make sure our customers understand that.
I think a good practice is to get involved in several different types of organizations that can provide feedback on ethics and on facial recognition. NIST, I think, is one we talked about earlier. Right. What about ANSI and ISO and the IATA? Are these organizations that work in this whole concept of facial recognition?
They are, right? So the organizations you mentioned are the National Standards Body and the International Standards Body, but also the International Air Transport Association. We also work with the International Biometric Identification Association, IBIA, and a number of other groups. We work with the Future of Privacy Forum. So standards setting is very important. We spend millions of dollars annually on R&D in the development of our technology. And so we're really proud to be a part of these groups because we want to make sure that the technology is standardized and that it can be interoperable with other types of platforms.
I think most people who are listening or watching this realize that NEC is a huge corporation. They spend millions and millions of dollars in research and development, and they just don't toss it out there. They do try to find out what impacts it can have on the community before they go out and just force it on someone.
That's right. I mean, not only do we do our own internal robust testing, with data sets that we have, then it's also important to do third-party unbiased testing with NIST. And we are a proud participant in those tests for the better part of a decade. 9 out of the last 10 years, we've been ranked #1 for either performance and or accuracy when it comes to facial recognition technology. We've also been ranked #1 for fingerprints and iris. So we're really proud to participate in those types of tests.
So prediction time, Benji, how many more years before you see widespread deployment?
I'd say we've got about 2 to 3 years. Over the next 24 months, you're going to see some massive changes and some wide rollouts. I know with some of our most public-facing customers, such as Delta, you are going to see this technology in more and more airports. You're going to see more airlines and more airports implement this technology. You already see it on your phone. I think you're going to see it in retail applications, fast food restaurants. So I think over the next 24 months, it's going to be a real proving time for facial recognition.
From the federal perspective, what concerns should federal professionals have with regards to facial recognition?
I think from a federal professional's perspective, the first thing they have to understand is what is the legal and policy framework around the technology? What can they do and what can't they do? There's a whole framework out there from federal laws and policies to make sure that your technology is implemented properly. For example, a privacy impact assessment or the right types of policy at a law enforcement organization. There are templates out there that can help those organizations through that process as they implement the technology, but they need to think about it ahead of time. Also, budgeting for it. It's challenging to get proper funding for these types of technologies, even though the price points are way better than they've ever been. It still takes multiple years to get that going and to deploy it the right way. But we also work real closely with our partners on the last point, which is training. I think training is a critical component on how you use the technology, how you roll it out, how you manage matching, what does a match mean, how do you set accuracy and performance levels. All those things are very important.
And I would imagine that error rates have gone down over the years as well as far as matching goes.
Oh, they have. As you might imagine, the images have gotten better as the camera technology has improved, better lenses and so forth. But the algorithms have gotten so much better too. The algorithms no longer need a lot of help as they once did, right? So there's no need for lots of different lighting. Although lighting is still a concern, we've been able to manage it a lot more. Motion blur, occlusion. Challenges with the images are always what gives the matching algorithm fits. But over the years, it's gotten a lot better.
I would imagine that a federal IT professional has a concern with people coming in and remotely connecting to the system. This can give a lot more assurance that the person connecting in is in fact the correct person, can't it? Because it amplifies the whole idea of recognition.
Yeah, multi-factor authentication is a big thing, and the Common Access Card is one example of a long-standing standard for accessing technology networks, information technology networks in the federal government. But the potential use of face or other types of biometrics could be a game changer.
I'd like to thank today's guest, Benji Hutchinson, Vice President for Federal Operations, NEC Corporation of America. I'm your moderator, John Gilroy, and you're listening to Federal News Radio, part of the Federal News Network. For more information on this discussion, visit federalnewsnetwork.com and search facial recognition.